Well, the government has finally decided to review the police dismissal procedure and say it's going to be completed within 4 months. The review will be looking at the effectiveness of the police disciplinary system, and I wouldn't necessarily be looking into the effectiveness of it, as it's pretty damn clear it's not effective in any manner. In fact, with police being allowed to resign before dismissal or get another job without having to inform the new employer that they're being investigated and keep their pension, it is in fact a complete and utter joke, and the police know it. Reading through the government's notice on their website, it's interesting to see what they've written. The internal review will look at the effectiveness of the disciplinary system so the public can be confident it is fair but efficient at removing officers who fall far short of the high standards expected of them. Efficient at removing officers who fall far short of the highest standards expected of them. When it comes to the police, the law, government, etc., the wording is very important, by the way. What worries me here is where that line between falling short and falling far short is. This could simply mean that wrong-un cops could be left employed to get worse and carry out more behaviour that's detrimental and dangerous to the public. The review into the process of police officers' dismissals, terms of reference, suggests that the review will be led internally by the Police Integrity Unit at the Home Office. Police and integrity. I mean, it's stated in their professional standards, and they even swear an oath to have integrity, but it's pretty clear integrity is missing in just about every aspect of the legal justice system these days, including from those who implement the laws. The 8 terms of reference the Home Office will be using through their review are: 1. Understand the consistency of decision making at both hearings and accelerated hearings, particularly in cases of discrimination, sexual misconduct and violence against women and girls. 2. Assess whether there is disproportionality in dismissals, and if so, examine the potential causes. 3. Establish any trends in the use of sanctions at both hearings and accelerated hearings, in particular the levels of dismissals. 4. To review the existing model and composition of misconduct panels, including assessing the impact of the role of legally qualified chairs. Review whether chiefs should have more authority in the process, including whether the chair should take the decision with protection of the officer provided by way of a right of appeal to the Police Appeals Tribunal and consideration of when barring occurs, and review the legal financial protections in place for panel members. 5. Ensure the forces are able to effectively use Regulation 13 of the Police Regulations 2003 Act to dispense with the services of probationary officers who will not become well-conducted police officers. 6. Review the available appeal mechanisms for both officers and chief constables where they wish to challenge disciplinary outcomes or sanctions, ensuring that options are timely, fair and represent value for public money. 7. Consider the merits of a presumption for disciplinary action against officers found to have committed a criminal offence while serving in the police. And 8. Review whether the current 3-stage performance system is effective at being able to reasonably dismiss officers who demonstrate a serious inability or failure to perform their duties or their rank or role, including where they have failed to maintain their vetting status. Now, I've mentioned many times, as have those in the comments, that police being able to resign before a hearing and keep their pension are 2 of the things it seems most people want to see change. But there's nothing specifically mentioned about those steps being looked at in the government's word salad, although it could just be the word salad disguises that fact. In fact, the express.co.uk did a poll of its readers where they asked, should police convicted of serious crimes automatically lose their pensions? Yeah. There you go, I've answered for the majority of the public in less than a second. Apart from the plod, that is, they wouldn't like that stipulation in their employment contracts, but maybe that's the point. We need police to be afraid of breaking the law that they're supposed to be enforcing. We already know that until recently that police got off lightly when they commit offences because it seems losing your job as a cop is such a terrible punishment in itself, but it doesn't stop police from committing crimes and breaking the law. Changes were made to make assault of an emergency worker harsher, giving police more protection when they are in fact simply paid members of the public doing a job that we as the public should all be taking part in, making sure that our communities, families and belongings are safe. But this also enabled police to use more force against the public and cry assault when it didn't quite go their way. When you start treating certain people differently in society, specifically when it comes to the law, then the premise that we are all equal under the law goes right out the window, and in some cases encourages people to act out and break the law, knowing they can fall back on their newfound protection. Now, granted, this review is not because of some police using too much force on someone, but rather because of far more heinous crimes of Wayne Couzens and David Carrick. But personally, I feel sick that the powers that be have allowed things to get to this point before deciding to do something about it. Thankfully, Carrick hasn't killed anyone that we know of, although his victims must live the rest of their lives with the damage that he's done to them. But the public have been crying out for years that this would happen, and was likely happening, and yet nothing was done until one of these cretinous animals slipped up. London Mayor Sadiq Khan is apparently putting forward a pension forfeiture application to the Home Secretary to have Carrick stripped of his pension because his crimes were committed in connection with his service as a member of the police, with Suella Braverman saying that she was in favour of the application. But why does it need Khan to put the application in when the Home Secretary is responsible for policing? She could simply order it or go to the courts and request that the forfeiture order be put in place with judges deciding. I don't think it should be a difficult task. In fact, it should have been standard for anyone who's dismissed from the force. Even if the forfeiture is only for what the employer has put in as contributions, because let's face it, to be fair, some of the money in the pension is from the person's own pocket, and as much as I don't think they deserve it, it is what they've earned, whereas the rest of the contributions are from the Met, which are paid for by the taxpayer. I don't see how it's so difficult and why it has to get to this point before something is done about it. In fact, I would also call for any monies paid while the copper is suspended should, if they are found guilty and dismissed, be paid back in full. Police forces are paying out millions of pounds in wages for suspended plot and will never get that back, as it's part of the game the police will play. They will remain suspended for as long as possible, earning their wage, and then resign at the last minute. Anyway, those are my thoughts. You might not agree, but either way, let's hear your thoughts in the comments.